Wells Fargo has been slapped with a $150 million fine and has fired thousands of employees for what regulators are calling widespread illegal sales practices, including opening as many as 2 million deposit and credit card accounts without customers' knowledge. Joining us to discuss is WSJ reporter Emily Glazer. Welcome, Emily. Great to see you.
Thank you.
So, Emily, employees at the bank then issued debit cards without customers' knowledge and assigned personal identification numbers without telling them. How did this come to light?
So this has been going on for quite some time. We know at least for the last 5 years. Wells Fargo uses a tactic known as cross-selling as part of its business strategy, which is where customers have more than one product with the bank, and that helps the bank make more money. Part of that led to these really aggressive sales tactics by bank employees, where they would want to have as many products as possible or services for customers, often when customers didn't even know about it. So they would sign them up for products without their knowledge or consent, whether that was for extra checking accounts, online banking, you name it. And sometimes they just made it up for people who didn't exist, all to reach sales goals and ultimately get bonuses that would, help these retail banking employees make more money.
So essentially an incentive program run amok that nobody seemed to be supervising.
Yeah, that's the big question here. For years, the bank said this is just some rogue employees, especially after an LA Times investigation came out back in 2013. But we wrote a story last year saying that regulators were involved in investigating the topic. And, I don't know why it took them a couple of years to look into that. But what we've then learned is that the Wells Fargo did do an investigation itself, and then it reported that to the CFPB and ended up firing around 5,300 people over this.
Right. So firing over 5,000 employees is not an isolated incident. Now, so Emily, let's talk a little bit more about what happened here. These employees would create accounts, which included transferring funds from customer accounts to these temporarily funded ones without the customer's permission. Now, did these affected customers sometimes receive insufficient funds fees? Did it harm their credit lines?
Yes, I think that's a really interesting point here and something that we focused on a little bit with our article today, which is that sometimes customers know about this and sometimes they don't. So first of all, it's hard to even tell how many people are impacted. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau estimates hundreds of thousands, but customers, if they're not checking their finances regularly, maybe wouldn't see, a $5 move from here to there or something like that. It's the customers often that all of a sudden have these fees, especially if it's overdraft fees or insufficient fund fees, just like you mentioned, if another account perhaps happened to be opened without them knowing about it.
Right.
And then they get a letter saying you owe, $25, $50, $100 and wondering what the heck happened.
So Emily, after investigating this, would you recommend all Wells Fargo customers to go over their accounts and ask for copies of their statements?
Absolutely. And that's something that I don't just recommend, but the LA City Attorney also made pretty specific in the remarks and announcement yesterday after the enforcement action and settlement was officially announced. They're suggesting that any retail banking customer, basically of Wells Fargo, any small business customer, so if there is a checking account, savings account, insurance, credit card, debit card. I mean, the list can go on and on. But if you are a individual or small business and you are a customer of Wells Fargo, I would definitely suggest checking your statements, checking how many products you have, going into the bank branch and asking them. Or you can also reach out to hotlines that the CFPB and the LA City Attorney have set up. And that's enough.
Very useful information. But Emily, I want to ask you, because this $185 million fine, while certainly a lot of money, is a drop in the bucket to a company like Wells Fargo. I mean, will there be more repercussions aside from this fine? Could the bank even face criminal charges?
So this was a civil action. So I think right now we're not expecting anything criminal. And usually the way that the regulators team up together, in this case, it was the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, the OCC, with the CFPB and the LA City Attorney. LA, of course, had been extremely active in this and has been going at this for quite some time. So they were definitely the lead. When they come together like that and we don't see the Department of Justice, that's a clear sign. So I wouldn't anticipate anything criminal in the near future. And in terms of it being a drop in the bucket, Absolutely. This is the world's largest bank by market cap. It has a 250 billion market value. This bank makes around 90 billion in revenues a year. So 185 million fine plus the 5 million that the bank is setting aside for customer remediation or
Right.
refunds. It's tiny. And I think a lot of people, at least that I heard from after our article came out, are wondering, why wasn't it bigger? And why do we see other banks getting fined billions of dollars that do impact their balance sheets?
Right. So will there be a push then, do you think, to go after the bank for more?
I'll be curious to see what happens. Right now, I'm hearing from one-off individuals who might be upset or frustrated, and I think time will tell if this escalates further. However, often when there are team situations like this with regulators or city officials coming together, we often don't see yet another version of that down the line. So I'm not sure if I would expect it, but it isn't totally out of the question.
All right, Emily Glazer, thank you so much for that.
Thank you.